Hello there everyone, today we are going to be reviewing Fire Emblem Engage as I just finished it up last night. I wanted to give my overall thoughts on the game, the pros and the cons, and I think there's a good balance of both, because going into this game, I had pretty high expectations, I will admit, because I did not like Three Houses, but I could tell just by looking at Engage that it was going to speak to me more instantly. The moment I even saw the art style, I knew Engage was more for me. Then we kind of learned, to my understanding, that Intelligent Systems was more leading the development than Koei Tecmo, who did Three Houses, and I was just excited in general. But there are definitely some very high pros and some, I would say, pretty damn bottom of the barrel lows with this game. Overall, I did enjoy my time with it, but let's get right into the review. Alright, so first off, I just want to talk about gameplay as a whole. I think Fire Emblem Engage has the most fun tactics gameplay of any Fire Emblem game. I'm actually pretty confident in saying that. For context, my favorite Fire Emblem game is Fire Emblem Echoes, and while that game is a remake of an NES game and definitely has issues there, I still think it's really fun. Three Houses, I think they really botched a lot of the mechanics, getting rid of the weapon triangle and all that, but Engage brings it back to the basics while expanding and exciting in new ways, specifically with the emblem mechanic, and this is where this will kind of go into story a little bit later. I think a lot of the controversy with this game comes, it maybe feels a little fan servicey. So this game basically has JoJo stands on it, where you attach an emblem, and an emblem is basically a protagonist of a past game, to a unit, and it can be any unit, which is awesome. I'm glad they didn't like tie them specifically to, one character, although story-wise they kind of do a little bit. Like, I guess there's like a canon, right, of which characters use which emblems a little bit. Like I think a Diamant is Ike, right? For example, I might be wrong. I can't remember exactly. I didn't use Diamant. The emblems are a really cool mechanic because it gives so much variety to what you can do in battle. Obviously there's 12 emblems, right? By the end of it, having like, even when you get to like 5 or 6 on the battlefield, it just adds so many options to what you can do. Celica, my girl Celica, of course, Echo's favorite game on 3DS, or even the favorite Fire Emblem game, period. Her emblem ability is Warp Ragnarok, and all it does is let you warp across the map. But just being able to do that, get into the enemy's front lines and kind of break them up a little bit, and then especially once you get like a dancer and you can make her go twice, it flows so well. Having all these new emblems is a fantastic addition. I don't think they should do it again, I will admit. I think the next game should have its own unique twist, and I kind of like that they did this to begin with. Similar to how Three Houses' whole gimmick is the Three Houses, right? I think this emblem mechanic is awesome. I think as a newer fan of Fire Emblem, someone who started with Awakening, it was nice. I don't feel like this is too fan servicey. Frankly, I really don't feel like it's overbearing at any point. Some of the bond conversations between, which are basically supports between a character and an emblem, some of that stuff is a little like they're just really short. They're a little cringe sometimes, and they don't really add that much. But overall, I didn't really feel that fan service vibe from this. And obviously, inherently, it's a little fan servicey because it's an anniversary game. This was meant to be kind of like the 30th anniversary celebration of Fire Emblem. It doesn't really affect too much in terms of that. It doesn't feel like it's just tacked on. It feels like this game was really truly made with all of these things in mind, and that feels good. It feels well implemented, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. I also have to mention the map design. I think this is one of my bigger issues with Three Houses as well. And to be fair, Echoes has an issue with this too, although in a different way. I don't like the maps in Three Houses. The maps in this game are much better designed. I think the enemy positioning is all better designed. It just flows a lot better. I still think, and this is just my opinion, I know people like this, I still think the maps get a little bit too big at times, to the point where it's taking, 20 turns, 25 turns to finish a map. I don't think it should ever take that long, frankly, which is, I think, part of the reason I like Echoes, because usually the maps are pretty small in that game. With this, I would say most of them are more medium-sized, which is pretty good. It just keeps up the pace of the game, gets you going back to the Somnial, which we'll talk about in a minute, and the flow of this game feels very good. It doesn't feel like I'm ever doing one thing for too long, which, not to keep comparing it to Three Houses, I know there's a whole raging debate on Twitter of people complaining about Three Houses versus defending it. One of the things I didn't like about Three Houses was it felt like I was at the monastery more than I was playing the game. I think Engage does a much, much better job of balancing those two things. But yeah, let's talk about the Somnial next. This is basically your replacement for the monastery, the hub of the game, where you can interact with characters, give them gifts, a lot of different activities. There was stuff I was not expecting, like you can go do sit-ups or push-ups. You have a little training mini-game with like rhythm elements, or there's a wyvern riding game that's literally just freaking Panzer Dragoon. It's really cool stuff. Obviously, they feel maybe a little underbaked, but just having it in the game at all, I think is really funny. And I think it just kind of adds to the tone of this game. This is a goofy-ass game, and I think we'll get into this more with the story. If you don't want a goofy game, if you don't want a goofy little Sunday morning anime cartoon, you probably won't like this. I'm gonna be honest, but for me, that is awesome. I love goofy characters. I love the overall pretty upbeat tone of this game, you know, with a game like Echoes or Three Houses, you know, it's really serious, like war stuff going on. With this, obviously there's serious things happening. This is it feels very lighthearted. It's very, you know, they're very chill about most things going on, it feels like. And I think just having these goofy activities you can do in the Somnial just kind of adds to it, you know, doing the sit-ups, doing the push-ups. You can obviously make food and have all the support conversations, which we'll get to. There's plenty of stuff to do in the Somnial. You can train, you can go to the relay battles, you can go to the emblem, I forget what it's called, where you go to edit your emblem rings, make, you know, link skills, inherited skills, whatever it's called. You can meld more bond rings, which I guess we should go ahead and talk about right now. This was something I was scared of. When I saw a screenshot of a summoning of a gacha, and this is, I mean, people were freaking out when this game was revealed that it was going to be a gacha game where you summon emblems. It's not quite what you think. You're not summoning emblems that actually help you in the map necessarily, in terms of like, oh, they have a unique ability. You're just summoning generic, for lack of a better term, side characters from each game that each emblem represents. So, for example, with Celica, you can get characters like Faye or Gray, I think her name is, or his name. So there's plenty of stuff there, and what they do is they just give you stat increases. So this is just another layer for me as I want to say a casual Fire Emblem fan, though I've been with it for 10 years now, of seeing past characters. I personally don't think it feels like overbearing fan service, though, like I was saying earlier. I think a lot of people will disagree with that, but for me, I think it just works, and I don't really mind it. I saw a lot of people saying that they need to stop making Fire Emblem crossover games, and they've really only done it this one time. You can count Fire Emblem My Heroes, I guess, but Fire Emblem Warriors, especially the first game, that's what the Warriors games are. It's not like a main game. So in terms of like a mainline Fire Emblem, this is the first time they've done it. If they do it again, then that's an issue. But as the first time they've done it with like a mainline console Fire Emblem, I really don't mind it. And I enjoy creating the bond rings. It's really fun seeing them kind of fill out as a completionist, just seeing all those things fill out. There's achievements in the game as well. I still, please, Nintendo, make system-wide achievements tied to your account, please, because completing a game like this would be a lot of fun. And yeah, overall, I just like the Somnial. I like the bond rings. I like all these different side activities you can do that distract from the core tactics gameplay in a good way. I don't mean distract. I was like, oh, I don't like it. Like Three Houses, that actually just you weren't even playing a tactics game. You were playing a social sim. Don't like that. Not a fan of that. But now let's get to the juicy stuff. Let's talk about the characters. I think Fire Emblem Engage has some of the best characters in the series, right? I'm just going to say it. I think this game has beautiful characters, funny characters, serious characters. It's everything I really want out of a cast for a Fire Emblem game. And in this category here, in the character section, I just want to talk about the art style as well really quick. I have seen so many people conflict on this, specifically with the main protagonist, Alir's design. People, if it was in a different art style, you would not have an issue with the character design. I promise you, if it was done by the character designer, the character artist for Fire Emblem Echoes or Awakening or whatever it is, you would not have an issue with Alir's design or any of the other characters' design. I promise you. It might look a little weeby or too anime. That's just because of the art style of the game. It looks like Xenoblade 3. It's very similar. It's that cel-shaded kind of look. And I personally think it looks fantastic. I think this is the best looking Fire Emblem game. And I think it has one of, if not the best casts of any Fire Emblem game, though there's a huge caveat to that, which we'll get to. Characters like Alfred and Celine and I think it's Fogado or Fodago, Chimera. Even Alir I like as a protagonist. I think characters like Robin and Byleth are pretty boring, Byleth especially. Alir, I think, has a lot of personality. I went with female Alir, and I don't know, I really like all the characters. Even like later characters that you get, like Marin and I'm trying to think of names here. Seedall is great. There's just so many characters to choose from. Such a great cast. I will say one thing I felt while playing it. It feels, and to be fair, I think this has just been the case for a while now. I'd have to like go back and like do the math. I counted. There's 17 male characters and 17 female characters. They definitely went harder on the female characters, I feel like, and not only in terms of design, but just in terms of presence in the story. That's just my takeaway. A lot of the male designs are just kind of, a lot of the guys are kind of sniveling little bitches. I'm gonna be honest with you, but there are some cool ones like Kagetsu, and like I said, Seedall. But I definitely think the female side of the cast is carrying this one. There's been a lot of controversy about these supports and how you can't. Well, first of all, you can't romance children. Thank God, NOE, thank you for getting that shit out of my game. But you can't do S-rank supports with more than one character. At the end of the game, you get the option to S-rank one character, which personally I don't mind. I kind of think it adds it makes it a little bit more special. There's no New Game Plus right now, which is a big deal for me. They need to add that with an update or in the DLC or something. But just the way I think the way they have it set up is pretty good. You can do an S rank with any character, and it's not necessarily marriage, you know? It's just, some are more flirtatious than others, certainly. And there is a lot of obvious pairings that are in the game. I think, and although not technically, it doesn't end up being canon, right? Minor spoiler, I guess. I don't really think it matters. Chloe and Louis, their support conversations are so flirtatious, and then they're really cute together. I really think they're cute together. But, you know, I don't think the game needs to be like, they got married. That's just my 2 cents. I know a lot of people will disagree, but I like the way they handled support conversations in this game. I like the way they handle the S rank. It makes it feel more special when you pick that character you want to S rank with. But I definitely get the criticisms. For me, it just wasn't really an issue. But now we have to talk about that caveat that I mentioned. The story. Listen, like I said, I love me a good Saturday, Sunday morning anime, goofy cartoon. The plot in this game goes so off the rails at points. I was just like, what am I even looking at? I like the characters, and the characters absolutely carried me through it. I like the general outline of the plot. But by the end of it, there's so much random BS happening, at least from my perspective, that I was just like, man, this is just stupid. And like I said, fine with that, but I gotta be honest, it is just stupid by the end of it, what is happening. You know, you have characters turning good, evil, left, right, big bad, little bad. I don't even know how to explain it without spoiling it, but it's just watching it and playing it. And I should say I put 30 hours in, you know, in 4 days. So absolutely no life, and that might have also, you know, changed my experience based on what you will have, because I doubt you'll no life it like I did. I guess I should have prefaced the video with that. I don't know. The story is just, it's just a little messy. It is definitely not the strongest Fire Emblem story at all. I will say that. Credit to Three Houses where credit is due. Three Houses definitely has a better story. You know, I will give it that. Though, like I said, I do love the cast of Fire Emblem Engage. I think it is just a really strong cast. I'm hoping and praying that in 3 years, similar to what happened with Three Houses and Three Hopes, we get an Engage-style Warriors game, because I just want to see more of these characters. Fire Emblem is very much in a situation kind of like Persona. Maybe it shouldn't have all the social sim elements to an extent, but it's in a situation like that where once we get the next mainline Fire Emblem, I would be okay with a few spinoffs. Maybe not even necessarily just Warriors games, but just a couple things. You know, Persona has like the dancing games, just some weird stuff. And then by the time we get the next mainline Fire Emblem, I guess it'd be Fire Emblem 18, then they don't touch it again for a long time. But even Three Houses, I think they could have done more with. I think they could have done more spinoffs with that. So I think having more games with these characters, that's my #1 hope right now. But yeah, overall, man, I really enjoyed Fire Emblem Engage. It definitely, that story is the biggest issue. Absolutely. The music is great too, didn't mention that. The game is really good. It's gameplay wise, I think the most fun I've had with a Fire Emblem game. Maybe that's part and due to my connection with the characters. Maybe that's just due to the new emblem mechanic and how good the map designs are. But either way, I really do think that Fire Emblem Engage is one of the most fun Fire Emblem games. It's a great place to start, too, if you haven't played a Fire Emblem game. I fully recommend it. It's you know, obviously easy to find. It's brand new on shelves. It's not going to run you a little bit more expensive like the 3DS games might, or even like the Game Boy and Rai games, you know, on Wii and GameCube. So Engage is definitely a great place to start, and it's a great place for veterans as well, I think. So that is going to do it. That is my review of Fire Emblem Engage. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, if you are new here, please consider subscribing for all things Nintendo news, reviews related. I really enjoyed this game, and I'm excited to see the future of the franchise. I do think, not to go too off rails here, I do think we are absolutely overdue for our remake. I know people are saying genealogy, which certainly may seem like the case, considering how much they emphasize Sigurd in this game. Personally, though, I would not be surprised if they do Awakening. I won't even elaborate any further than that. I don't even care if they do. Frankly, I don't want them to do Awakening because I've played it. I would rather they modernize an older game, but not going to elaborate. Awakening, I think, is probably next. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, folks. Bye-bye.